I don't have anything. Hey BookTube, it's Kim at Middle of the Book March, and today's video is my yearly video about my best 4-star books of the year for 2024. And I normally do this, I don't remember how long ago I started doing my best 4-star books, but I do that one and then my best 5-star books, because a lot of the books that we give 4 stars to, or you might call them second best books, could be somebody else's 5-star book. And these are all great books. I enjoyed every single one of them. And for whatever reason, a 4-star book doesn't usually affect me emotionally like a 5-star book would. Camera's moving a little bit, hold on. But yeah, so I wanted to show you my 4-star books from 2024. I think I have 10 books here. I have 10 books here. Only one is nonfiction, and my top book is actually 2 books. So I did not rank them except for the top of the tier, the top 4-star books of 2024. So I'm just going to start by showing you what the first one's in my pile. This is the only nonfiction, and the majority of my reading is fiction, but I do read many nonfiction through the year, and this one I really enjoyed. Obviously, I'm a George Eliot fangirl, so I've read a few of biographies of her, and this one is George Eliot, a biography by Gordon Haight. This was a great biography. It was comprehensive, but it was also very readable, interesting. He wrote a lot of material that is taken from other researchers and biographers, and I had read another biography, Frederick R. Carl. I'm staring at it. It's George Eliot. And that one, it was good, but that one was not as readable, and he actually quoted quite a bit from Haight's book. And this one was really good. It's really interesting to read about her and her life and her writing life. And I just really enjoyed this one. It was a slow burn. It was a slow read, but that's good. There's a lot in here. And she had a really interesting life, a really interesting personal life, and a really interesting artistic and writing life. So I really liked that. The other reason I gave it 4 stars is this is not necessarily a book I could recommend to any reader that I bump into on the street, or anybody that says, hey, can you give me any idea of a good book to read? I would not say, read the George Eliot biography, because this is going to appeal to a different kind of reader. You got to be really into George Eliot for me to recommend that one. So let me keep going. The rest of them are novels, and this one was a complete surprise to me. I read this on audio, I think. I think I listened to this one on audio, and I liked it so much that I bought a physical copy. This is When God Was a Rabbit by Sarah Winman. And it literally is a coming-of-age story about a young girl with a rabbit named God. And it was just quirky and different and unexpected. Sarah Winman is a great writer. I loved her writing. I don't know how she came up with this story and how she came up with these characters, but having a rabbit named God as one of the main characters, actually, and it's about love and family. A lot of these books, several of these books have some sort of mystical or paranormal or supernatural aspects to them, and this is similar to that. Not as fantastical as a few of the other books that I'm going to show you, but When God Was a Rabbit by Sarah Winman, and I really enjoyed this. It was unexpected. I wasn't out looking for this book. It happened to show up. I recognized Sarah Winman's name, really enjoy her writing, and that was a big success for me. The next one is from one of my favorite American authors of all time. This is Cannery Row by John Steinbeck. This is exceptional, and John Steinbeck's writing never disappoints me. It's a street and neighborhood called Cannery Row. First published in 1945. It basically talks about this community and this neighborhood as it is in Monterey, California. It's kind of, I don't know, it's There's a little plot here. It's mostly character development and character analysis. Steinbeck's gorgeous writing, and it's funny, and it's downtrodden, and it's real, and it's just super interesting. And this is the kind of writing that I love. John Steinbeck is a Kim author, and I just really liked it. This is a shorty. So if you're interested in getting into Steinbeck, I absolutely would recommend Cannery Row. Many of his other books are chunky. East of Eden and Grapes of Wrath, which are my all-time favorite Steinbeck novels, are chunky. I would recommend this one as a first Steinbeck if you're diving in. And it was fun, and it was intense at the same time, and beautifully written. This one is another one that I have in physical form, but I actually listened to it. And the author narrates it, and her narration is fantastic. But I love the physical copy as well. This is Divine Might by Natalie Haynes, Goddesses in Greek Myth. And Natalie Haynes is a classicist, and she wrote one of my favorite books, Thousand Ships. She wrote Stone Blind, the Medusa retelling. She's written several other books of Greek gods and goddesses, and this one is kind of an analysis of goddesses in Greek myth. Let's see. She talks about Athena, Hera, Demeter, Persephone, Artemis, the Muses. It's just, a classicist looking into female goddesses in the Greek mythology and kind of those underexposed stories. Because when we think about Greek myths, we think about the heroes and Zeus and, all of the other ones, Hades and Hephaestus and all kinds of Greek gods and power and might. But we do hear about goddesses, Aphrodite and Athena, but kind of in maybe superficial ways, women's vengeance and that type of thing. But Haynes brings life and analysis and a spectacular audio narration to Divine Might. So another good one. I can't say that because that's why I'm making this video. It's kind of stupid. This one was a gift from my friend Judy Brown, and this is The Foundling by Stacey Halls. This is the story set in 1750s London, and this is a woman named, where is she? Bess Bright. She has a child out of wedlock, and the day after her baby is born, she delivers it to a foundling home. And she is desperate to come back for her baby, but when she does, a very short time later, the child is gone. And she is told that she's already picked up her child, and she never did. So she's trying to discover what happened to her daughter. There's a mystery involved. How did this happen? Who is the father? And it's kind of a domestic mystery set in the city of London in the 1700s. Again, very unexpected. I really enjoyed the writing and the story. I enjoyed the setting. Stacey Halls is an author I'm definitely going to look out for, and she either has another book out or is coming out with one that I'm really eager to read. But this one was a great story, and one of the most beautiful books that I have. It's got the foil and all kinds of stuff. And this particular book is signed by the author. It has the sticker right on there. There it is. So yeah, this is a great one. If you're into the setting and the time period, historical fiction, I think you would probably enjoy that. Oh, here's another one. Again, like I said, a lot of these have kind of mystical, supernatural themes to them. This is The Snowchild by Eowyn Ivey. This is a story of a couple living in remote 1920s Alaska, literally out in the wilderness. And they have moved there from the city. I don't remember which city. I think it's like the Midwest somewhere. And this is the story of Jack and Mabel. They've been trying to have a baby unsuccessfully, many miscarriages. They do end up having a baby that is stillborn, and their family is incomplete. And there's a lot of domestic tension and investigation into their backgrounds and who they are as a couple and as individuals. And one day in the middle of winter, they decide they're going to build a little snowman or a snow person. And they build this little snow person and make it a snow girl with mittens and a coat and everything. And it's just kind of a fun thing for them to do in the middle of winter in the forest all by themselves. And the next day, the Snowchild is gone, and they see footprints, and the hat and coat and mittens are gone. And eventually they get sightings of a child running through the wilderness in the snow with a little fox as a companion. But it's a really sweet book. It's beautifully spare in its writing. Alaska in the wilderness, in the snow in the 20s, in a cabin, in a remote cabin. One neighbor that they have no choice but to get familiar with and to kind of partner with each other to help each other survive through this setting. But it's really great writing and a wonderful story. Some questionable aspects of how is this happening and what is the conclusion to this? What is the climax to this family saga, this family story? But it's really good. And one of those books that you kind of start reading and it just pulls you into the setting, and a great winter book to read. And I don't even really read books based on the season. I don't read winter books in winter and beach books in summer. Just read them whenever I feel like it. This next one, again, more kind of supernatural, mystical things. This is Wward by Amelia Hart. Another gorgeous cover on this one. This crow is a very big part of the story. But this is set in 3 different time frames. 2019 is Kate, and 1619 is Alpha, and 1942 is Violet. They are connected. All of these women are connected through history. And this is a book that talks about an old house, an old cottage, witchcraft, unexplainable events, mystery, and what each of these women had to do with each other's history and how they all tied together. There's a very difficult to read path and storyline of domestic abuse. And it's part of the main plot and also an excellent conclusion of this book. But I loved it. I loved reading the story. This is just such a really pretty object, and I actually loved reading this and closing the book up when I was, finished my section and just being able to look at that really pretty artwork on the cover. I know, I really get into that. Talk about a really pretty book. This is The Spellshot by Sarah Beth Durst. And if you've watched me for a while, you heard me gush about this book. It's got purple sprayed edges. I actually listened to it first. And again, this is one of those instances where I loved it so much that I went and bought my physical copy for my shelf. But this little picture, that's a flying cat with green wings. Obviously, this is a supernatural fantasy story, a cozy fantasy. Cozy romantasy, which means it's not very explicit. It is sweet and warm. It is a little mysterious. There's adventure. There is conflict and tension. There is a really sweet love story. This is about a librarian. This is Keela, who is a librarian at the Great Library of Elysium. And she and her assistant, Kaz, who is a living, talking spider plant, have to quickly escape this island with as many books as they can grab. And they put as many books as they can in crates, and they bring them onto this ship that takes them to an island, to a cottage that Keela's family once owned, so it is now hers. The very beginning of their journey when they get to this cottage, I thought was so sweet. And just listening to them discovering this place and how run down it was and what they had to do to clean it up and what they had to do to make it a warm, cozy home. And then their story begins. What's the story with the books? What's the story with escaping the island and the Library of Elysium? Who are all the people that they meet, and what happens in this story? And what kind of mystery is this? I loved it. I loved reading this book. I loved listening to it. The characters, so much diversity in its characters, mermaids and dolphins and plants that talk and animals and wizards and all kinds of things like that. It was so much fun. Just a really fun, sweet read, and absolutely loved it. So the best 4-star reading experience for me last year is 2 books. And I don't think this will come as any surprise to anybody, but I am part of the Pinheiro Project, and the very first 2 books that we read are my best 2 books for 4-star ratings from last year. And the first one is All Yours by Claudia Pinheiro, and we have 2 different translators. This one is translated from Spanish by Miranda France, and The Time of the Flies by Claudia Pinheiro, translated by Frances Riddle. These 2 books, All Yours came first, and Time of the Flies is the sequel to All Yours. And they're both very different, but they continue with the same characters. All Yours is the story of Inez, who is convinced that every wife is betrayed one day, and that's also because her mother was betrayed by her father. Her father just deserted them one day. And her mother became very cold and bitter, and Inez soaked that in and absorbed those feelings, and so she has no positive feelings towards men at all. And she starts to think that her husband is having an affair. They also are parents to a teenage daughter who they call Lala, and they basically possibly are guilty of neglect because they don't pay much attention to her. They don't notice what's happening to their daughter. And Inez is so focused on discovering what's going on with her husband, following him, putting on disguises, coming up with theories as to what's going on, going to see him at his work and kind of getting involved in discovering his secrets, stalking it to a point. And it's a short one, but it's a very powerful book. I was really sucked into Inez's story and her thought process. She's different. She's a very different kind of person. And that leads into her choices and the things that she chooses to do. Really excellent first book for the Pinheiro Project. Not perfect, because this particular translation was weird, and I don't know if that's part of why Pinheiro changed publishers and translators after several of her novels. But a lot of the translation sounded very non-Spanish, non-Argentinian, which is Argentina is where these stories are set. And it just kind of pulled me out of the atmosphere, and the translation sounded more British than they did Argentinian, so it was a little off-putting. But the story and the characters were awesome, and I really enjoyed that. Time of the Flies is the sequel to All Yours, the same character of Inez. It is now 15 years later, and I don't want to tell you a lot about this book because it'll ruin All Yours if you're choosing to read it. But we pick up Inez's story 15 years later, and she becomes an exterminator, but she doesn't kill flies. She loves flies of all different sorts. And she has a friend, Manka, who they have a business together. Manka is a private detective. They live together, and they are best friends. And what is her life? What is Inez's life like now? What happened in her family life? What happened with her husband? What happened with her daughter? We find out all of those things in Time of the Flies 15 years later. This one is a thicker book, but really loved reading this, and it brought you straight back into the character of Inez and her family. The growth that she experienced in 15 years, the type of person that she is at this point as opposed to earlier in her life. This was not published right after All Yours, but we read it concurrently so that we would see the actual growth of the characters as if we were reading one long novel. So this was the best 4-star reading experience for me in 2024. And the Pinheiro Project is going strong, and I just have so much fun with these readers and everybody that's commented and all of the books that we're reading and the thoughts that we're expressing. It's just an awesome group. So that is it for me for 2024's best 4-star books and best 4-star reading experiences. Let me know in the comments below what you think. And this video is posting on Tuesday. On Thursday, I will have my best of the best for 2024. And that's about it. Leave me a comment below, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.